thank one of my subscribers, JG, for sending this story. This is absolutely phenomenal. Fertility rates are dropping across the world and could soon become a cause for concern. Ladies and gentlemen, it is already a cause for concern. And when I put out a few videos, there were a few people coming in my comment section insisting that Black people are going through a population decline. I tell you what, the data does not back up what you're saying. Those of you that are running around trying to say that, the data doesn't back you up. You can go back to the 1700s and look at the census, and every single time that census was done, the Black population increased, and it never stopped increasing. We never flatlined or had an era where more of us died than being born. So your little argument that the Black population is declining too don't hold water. Not to mention, when I go through this article, you're not going to see one African nation as part of the birth rate dropping. So again, your argument that it's happening to Black people too don't hold any water. All right. Fertility rates have already dropped below replacement levels in 83 countries, and the trend is likely to continue. This is huge, y'all. Okay, so if the whole world population is declining in 83 countries, that means less money will be circulated on Earth, less people in the labor force, less people out here spending and keeping the economy going. So it's going to be very easy for these countries to eventually collapse. They're not going to have enough people circulating any type of income or money through the economy. Now, there were many people running around here, and I've had conversations back in the day when I used to talk to everybody on the internet. I don't do that now, where people would come and say things like, well, it's too many people on Earth. You need to eliminate the people, and look at who's getting eliminated. Maybe you should have been more clear to the Most High on who you want eliminated from the earth, because the people that got on the soapbox doing that, it's their people that are being eliminated from this earth. Isn't that ironic? The people that wanted others off of this planet are the ones that are declining. You can't make it up. I guess the devil is no longer listening to their prayers. But let's get into this, ladies and gentlemen. The fertility rate, or the average number of births per woman, is typically a little concern for government and business leaders until it brings about population decline, shrinking the labor force and substantially increasing the proportion of elderly. Decline begins when fertility falls and remains below the replacement level of about 2 births per woman. A half century ago, 6 countries, Czechia, Estonia, Hungary, Japan, Latvia, and Ukraine, 5% of the world's population reported fertility rates slightly below replacement levels. And that was a half a century ago. Now, it was 6 countries. Listen to this. It was 6 countries a half a century ago. Today, a record high of 83 countries, representing about half of the world's population, report below replacement level rates. By 2050, which it's going to be sooner than that. That is a wishful number right there. More than 130 countries, or about 2/3 of the world's population, are projected to have fertility rates below replacement levels. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to look closely at that sentence. Now, didn't the Most High talk about 2/3 in the Bible? 2/3, y'all. And that is exactly the wording they are using in this article about the population levels of people that will disappear. Two-thirds of the world. And it says two-thirds in the Bible. Okay, non-believers, this is why I don't listen to you. Now, let's get further into this article. Many countries manage low fertility rates for decades. The fertility rates of Canada, Germany, Italy, Japan, and the United Kingdom, for example, have been below replacement level, listen to this, for more than 40 years. This is why I'm telling y'all, this stuff has been going on for decades, long before we start hearing about it, even here in this country. If you look at the US Census starting in the 50s and bring it all the way up to present day, there has been a steady decline in mainly the white population in this country. And it started back around the 50s. And you can see this drop every single time the census was done. This did not just start a few years ago. It's just a few years ago, they just start talking about it. Big difference. Most European countries have remained below replacement levels, listen to this, for more than 25 years. Japan in 2017 had the fewest births since official statistics began in 1899. So you can see it was 6 countries in 1965 that were below replacement levels. By 2015, there were 83 countries below replacement levels. And they're using the 2050, but I'm telling you, they don't have that much time. They don't have that much time. That's why you're seeing these people act out all out in public, making spectacles of themselves. Future rebounds in fertility cannot be ruled out, but once fertility falls below replacement level, the trend endures. And as you can see, none of those countries in all these decades have been able to bounce back. You know, even the scientists will tell you once you reach a certain level, there's no reversing it. They can't reverse it, ladies and gentlemen. They can't. And even if they slightly reverse it, they would still have to catch up to the groups that never had a population decline. You know, and I didn't even know until Hurricane Maria that Puerto Rico had a population decline on that island, and it was going on for quite some time. The Puerto Ricans that live in mainland America, they did not have that issue. But on the island of Puerto Rico, they were having problems reproducing themselves. Interesting. This pattern has been especially evident in countries where fertility has declined to 1.6 children per woman, including Canada, China, Germany, Hungary, Italy, Japan, South Korea, and Russia. Among the factors responsible for below replacement fertility levels are lower child mortality rates, widespread education, increased urbanization, improvements in the status of women, including increased employment and economic independence, availability of modern contraceptives, delay childbearing, as well as the decline of marriage. See, the decline of marriage is global. And I told you guys, Around me, when I was growing up, I saw wedding parties almost every weekend. I kid you not. We used to run into them on the road, or they would be passing by the street that I live on. We would see them all the time. And sometimes every church in my neighborhood would have a wedding going on. Every single one. Now, I'll probably go months without even seeing a wedding party on the road. And then all of a sudden, I'll see one. But it went from going and seeing sometimes multiple wedding parties on the road a few decades back to now seeing virtually none. I can't even tell you the last time I saw one on the road. I did see one on the road last year, but from that point on, I haven't seen none. And if you go past the same churches that were doing a lot of weddings, those churches are closed. The parking lots are empty on a Saturday when most weddings take place. Those churches are closed. Nobody's there. The parking lots are empty. So I do see the difference in the decline of marriages going on around me. So I know that's true. And it seems now, just looking at this article, it is worldwide. Less marriages are going on worldwide. And pension systems and increase cause of childbearing. Available demographic evidence suggests that factors will persist and become widely globally. Declining population size. In many developed countries, significant number of women remain childless. The percentage of childless women age 40 to 44 years in the United States, for example, doubled from 1976 to 2006. And you know what? I did an article on childless women, but it was more about Europe. And they said the number is exploding across Europe. There is now a lot of these women in their late 30s and 40s that aren't married and don't have children. And they're having a hard time finding a good mate. Many of them said they pretty much gave up. I did a video on this before. But you can see it has doubled in the United States. And I know it's astronomical over in Europe too. Reaching over 1/5 of women in 2010, no less than 1/5 of women age 40 to 44 years were childless in Australia, Germany, Japan, Spain, and the United Kingdom. Reasons for not having children vary, often passing personal, financial, political, and environmental considerations. Among women having children in developed countries, most of one or two children, with a smaller number choosing to have three or more. Countries with the lowest proportion of births after a second child is in 2015 include Spain, 11%, Greece, 13%, Italy, 14%. In most OECD countries, less than 1/5 of births represent children beyond a woman's second child. Wow, that's pretty low. A notable exception to this pattern is in the United States, where 30% of births represent children beyond the replacement level. Since the start of the 21st century, close to 20 countries have declined in population size and are aging rapidly due to low fertility levels. And we know that's going on right here in the United States. If current below replacement fertility rates remain unchanged, populations of 40 countries, including China, and see, China pretty much did this to themselves with that with them restricting how many kids each family could have. They said if you go to China right now, there's tons and tons of men and hardly no women, not enough women for them to marry. But they pretty much screwed themselves over. And they're not going to bounce back from that, ladies and gentlemen. You can pretty much say China effed themselves over for good doing that. Germany, Japan, Russia, and South Korea are projected to be smaller by mid-century. Even if fertility rates were to increase modestly, as assumed by a United Nations projection, the population of those countries are still expected to be smaller by 2050. And as you can see on this chart, the lighter shade blue is showing the constant decline in each country, and the solid darker blue is showing you the labor force. And these places are not going to be able to turn themselves around. More challenging for governments are projected declines in labor force population, age 20 to 64. Working age population declines exceeding 20% are expected in many countries, including some of the world's largest economy, such as China and Japan. Expected population declines are accompanied by rapid population aging. And you know what it is, y'all. You know, in the Bible, the Most High heavily encouraged couples to be together. Do you know in your first year of marriage, your husband didn't work? He got that time off from work so he could spend that whole year bonding with his wife. And then he returned back to work. But see, in this society, you give birth and within weeks you go back to work. That's not how it's supposed to be done, according to the biblical text. Once children come along, if that man gets time to be with his family, but they don't encourage that in none of these societies where they have declining birth rates. They don't encourage that family bond. You know, that 1 year that your husband was with you, that unbreakable bond between the husband and wife, that's why that man had the year off after he took a new bride. This country is so money driven, it puts money ahead of everything, including the family. So I'm not surprised that you're struggling with your population. None of these countries that I'm mentioning to you encouraged a family like that. And then they got these divorce laws set up that would discourage that would discourage any man from getting married. You get a divorce and you got to give part of your income and in many cases property and everything to the other party. And many people don't like that. And because of the ways they have these divorce laws set up, a lot of people don't want to get married anymore. They don't want to get stuck in a situation that might not work. And I know you're not supposed to think like that. You're supposed to believe in your relationship, but they got too many things, too many cutthroat things in the laws. And that's the biggest problem with America. Too much cutthroat things and not enough positive things to encourage the family or encourage the building of a family. As a result, below replacement fertility and increased longevity, populations are becoming the oldest in human history. Increases in proportion of elderly, those 65 years and older, are projected to be substantial and widespread. And that's what's happening here in America. Right now, the biggest population of elders are white. After they die out, they have no more big populations. And they're dying out right now as we speak. Okay. By mid-century, for example, the elderly are expected to account for more than a third of the populations of Germany, Italy, Japan, and South Korea. And you know what? Even when I was living in Germany, they were on a major decline then. This is why many of these European nations are now complaining about the migrants and the immigrants that are coming over. They are literally taking it over because they can't reproduce themselves. So they're pretty much screwed. But, they're between a rock and a hard place, because if you don't let the immigrants and the migrants come, then those economies are going to fall. They don't have enough white people to carry the economy anymore. So if they want to keep those countries going, they're going to have to let the immigrants in. There's no other way to do it. The relative increase in the dependent older population has repercussions, especially regarding retirement ages, pensions, taxes, voting, health expenditures, and elder care. Some political leaders acknowledge the challenges. Paul Ryan, outgoing Speaker of the House U.S. of Representatives, pointed to a need for higher U.S. birth rates in this country. Well, that's easier said than done. Anybody can walk up to a mic and say bigger, the population need to have more babies, but saying it and doing it are two different things. Baby boomers are retiring, and we have fewer people following them in the workforce. At the start of the year, Prime Minister Shinzo Abe labeled Japan's dwindling birth rate alongside the aging society as a national crisis. Well, with Fukushima going on over there, I don't know how he's going to rebound from that. He won't. Okay, and then Sultanka Petrova, Deputy Labor Minister of Bulgaria, described the country's projected decline in its working age population as a social and economic bomb that will explode unless we take adequate measures. And here's a chart, y'all. And you can see every one of these places in the chart are countries where they have a declining population. And I want you to look at the fact that there are no African nations on the chart. There are no, listen to me now, listen to me. There are no African nations on this chart. Can I repeat myself one more time? There are no African nations on this chart. So please don't come in my comment section ever again with population declining is happening to Black people too. If you put that in the comment section, I will personally take it out because you are a liar. So if you put it there and it's gone, you can come right back to the source, me, because I'm going to be the one getting rid of it. Nearly 2 out of 3 countries with below replacement fertility have policies and programs to raise birth rates, in addition to public programs promoting marriage, childbearing, parenting, and gender equality. Governments try various incentives to raise fertility rates, including baby bonuses, family allowances, maternal and paternal leave, tax breaks, flexible employment schedules, and family friendly work environments. Cost of those incentives can be substantial, while in some countries, such as Mexico and the United States, public spending on family benefits is well below 1% because they don't believe in that here. They don't believe in it, and it shows. It shows in many ways that they are not concerned about families in this country. I have worked with, I know one of the first jobs I worked on, a woman got pregnant. Do you know they all turned on her in the office after they found out she got pregnant? They didn't like it and they turned on her. See, that's the kind of stuff that happens at work, y'all. You know, these people are not for family like you think they are. You know, they'll say all the right things, but when it comes down to doing it, that's a whole different ball game. Okay, so they spend well below 1%, which is not shocking because America is not a family oriented country. It is a country that puts money ahead of everything. In other countries, including Denmark, France, Sweden, and the United Kingdom, family benefits amount to 3 to 4% of GDP. Some European countries, including France, reduced their comparatively generous family benefits to scale back budgets. And see, there you go, the word budget. It's a money thing. So the hell with family, we got to save money. That's pretty much how this world works. You know, that's why I'm telling you that this world is spiritually dead. And the people dying in it, that just confirms it right there. I'm just going to go down a little. Countries worldwide increasingly aim to reduce immigration levels and stem record flows of refugees by erecting fences and barriers, strengthening border controls, tightening asylum policies, and restricting citizenships. Attempts by regional and international organizations to encourage acceptance of immigrants and growing numbers of refugees, counter fierce political resistance, public opposition. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter how much you oppose it. These folks, they're worried about their bottom line or having to live without. They're not even willing, and and see, that's another thing. And I meant to bring this out before. See, these folks are so used to being handed everything. So if they have to live without in order to build their fertility rate in their economy, they're not going to do it. You'll have plenty of opposers. I'm not doing that. Why should I be without this and be without that? That's how they think. They're not willing to make the sacrifices in order to save themselves. That's what you got to understand. Number one, they're not even willing to admit they got a problem. Now, if they're not going to admit they have a problem, how do they do something about something that they won't even admit is going on? So they're pretty much doomed. There is no turning back the clock on this thing. It really isn't. Okay. For most countries, sustained below replacement fertility rates promise population decline. Communities that refuse to adjust will only exacerbate the consequences of these powerful demographic trends, just what I was saying. They're not going to make sacrifices because these people are too damn selfish to even help themselves in this kind of way. So don't expect for them to turn this thing around. They're not. It's impossible. It's impossible. If they were going to do this, they should have done it a few decades back. Then it would have made somewhat of a difference now. Even if they tried to have a bunch of babies now, they're not going to catch up to everybody else that never flatlined or lost more of a population than it could replace. So it's pretty much over, and it's going to be over long before 2050. 2050 is just a date to buy time to stay in power. That's all that date is. But there's no turning this around, ladies and gentlemen. There's no turning it around. I'm still blown away at the fact that they have 2/3 in there, and that is in the Bible. Wow. Can't make it up, y'all. This is something. This is huge. This is huge. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video. And if you can support my channel, please do. Your support is always welcome. Peace, family.